Hello friends, it's Professor Google here. Today's video is going to be a bit unusual, but I'm sure you'll like it. So, get comfortable and let's get started. A wife you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. Belle Gunness, or as she was otherwise known, Hell's Belle. The girl was born in Norway in 1859. Her father was a real strongman who worked as a stonemason. Probably, genes played their role, and the girl grew up as strong as her father. She worked on a farm for a long time, and soon followed her sister's example, saved money and went to America. There she became a maid in a good family, and had enough to live on. But about 2 years later, she met a Norwegian immigrant named Mads Albert and married him. They had 4 children, and strangely enough, neighbors never saw Belle with a big belly. There were rumors that all of them were adopted. Anyway, no matter what the children were like, each of them was insured. 2 of them died very quickly, and the family received compensation. After some time, her husband Gunness was also poisoned. At that moment, the investigation began to suspect something. Such coincidences were no longer accidental. With the insurance money, the woman bought a farm and moved there. When Belle was already preparing to leave Chicago, she unexpectedly met another Norwegian, Peter Gunness. He was also a widower and had 2 daughters. Their grief brought them closer together, so when Belle left for Indiana, Peter realized he had fallen in love and followed her. But here came the misfortune. As soon as the man left for a while, one of his daughters died. It was again attributed to an accident. 8 more months passed, and now Belle's second spouse died. According to the girl, a heavy object fell on his head and she didn't have time to save him. There was not enough evidence against the widow, and she received insurance again. Twice widowed Belle realized that she couldn't manage the farm alone and hired a man named Frank Lamfer to help her. But without a husband, the woman seemed to be lonely, and she began to look for love again. This time she did it simpler, by placing an ad in several Chicago newspapers. People came to the farm to see the girl, lived with her for a while, and then disappeared without a trace. The only person who returned home from 1903 to 1906 was George Anderson, who apparently was lucky enough to wake up at the right moment. Interestingly, one of Belle's daughters said in school that her mother was a maniac. But no one believed the girl. People attributed it all to her mind being clouded due to the incident with her father. Agreeably, the story is, to say the least, questionable. Bloody sisters who killed more than 100 people. The story of these 2 women is much more accurate and vivid, without any veil of mystery or ambiguity. The sisters committed their atrocities from 1950 to 1964, during which they killed over 110 people, about 11 of whom were clients of their brothel, while the others were girls working for them. The sisters carried out their dirty deeds on their own ranch, which was not far from Mexico. Both girls came from a poor family. At the beginning of their careers, they traded their bodies. But as soon as they accumulated enough money, they decided to open their own business. The sisters lured girls to work for them through advertisements for waitresses, but then never let them go. There are rumors that the Gonzalez sisters even kidnapped women they liked so they could work in their brothel and serve clients around the clock. The exposure of this business happened entirely by chance. The police simply received a report of the disappearance of many girls. Law enforcement went to investigate, caught one of the prostitutes, who quickly gave up the sisters and directed the police right to their hideout. Upon discovering the brothel, the police saw with their own eyes 11 clients who were killed, a series of sick and exhausted girls selling their bodies, as well as a huge amount of illegal substances. As a result, both sisters were sentenced to 40 years in prison. The serial killer nurse. While our previous guests did not confess to their crimes, this particular heroine admitted to 31 murders. Her name is Jane Toppin, a woman born in the United States in 1854. She did not commit these crimes for personal gain, such as money. She simply wanted to make a name for herself as someone who had killed the most people. It did not matter to Jane whether the person in front of her was male or female. Everyone fell under her murderous hand. The Toppins, like most people with similar mental deviations, were poor. At a young age, Jane and her sister were sent to an orphanage. Upon reaching adulthood, in 1885, Jane began studying to become a nurse. After completing her courses, she found work at a local hospital where the relative authority drove her insane. The girl began conducting experiments on her patients, taking advantage of their trust in her and their helplessness. Jane realized that no one and nothing could stop her, and any unsuccessful trick could be blamed on health accidents. People were like lab rats to Toppin, in which she could inject forbidden substances and do whatever her twisted soul desired. This cheerful woman literally got a kick out of what she was doing. She deliberately changed the dosages prescribed to patients and observed how it affected their nervous system. Moreover, the atrocities occurred not only in the hospital where Jane worked but also during home visits. The maniac was caught after one of the regular cases. The family requested a relative's examination, and it was later revealed that he was poisoned, and the diagnosis made by Jane was incorrect. In 1902, the court declared Jane Toppin insane and sentenced her to lifelong treatment at a psychiatric clinic. The Ural she-wolf from Russia. If you think that there are no more cruel representatives of the fair sex in modern times, and the previous women featured in the issue lived a long time ago, here is an example for you. This is Irina Viktorovna Haidamachuk, a woman who is responsible for the deaths of 17 victims. Each of them is an elderly woman aged up to 86 years old. And Irina did not deal with them in more humane ways, such as poisonings or other drugs. She acted radically. She hit them with a hammer on the head, took all their money with jewels, and disappeared, leaving the fatal hammer as a present for the police. The woman suffered from alcohol addiction, and her motive was that supposedly elderly people do not bring any benefit. Irina, or the Ural she-wolf, as she was called, often came up with new, creative ways to enter the victim's apartment. She pretended to be a gas equipment worker, left notes on doors asking to be at home at a certain time. Moreover, the poor grandmothers could not even imagine that such a fragile-looking girl was capable of such cruel and uncompromising retribution. Years passed, and the number of victims kept growing and growing. The bloodthirstiness and ruthlessness of the Ural she-wolf terrified all the local lonely grandmothers. Like all maniacs, over time, Irina felt her impunity and began to make mistakes, thanks to which operatives were able to track her down. Well, as I promised, the video was interesting. So, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.